read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a book lovers expert, publishing consultant, and best-selling author, no other than Miss Ally Machate.
Hey, Daniel, thanks so much for having me.
Welcome to Book 101, Miss Ali, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I am the consummate book nerd. I have loved reading and writing all my life, and here I am now, the CEO and founder of the Writers Ally, which is an author services business. We help serious authors to write, publish, and sell more high quality books, and we work across the spectrum of genres, everything from children's picture books to YA novels, memoirs, and of course, nonfiction business books.
Miss Ali, thank you so much for sharing your business to the world and hoping for more and more and more empowering books to come. So tell us, what is your humble beginning as a book leverage expert?
Well, it really does go back to my very beginning. My mother loves to tell people the story of how I started reading at age 3. I was so eager to learn to read, and I would make little books out of construction paper and crayons, and I would give them to friends and neighbors, and I would tell people that I was a publisher. I was producing books. So I've really always truly loved the book world. All through my academic career, I did things like I was editor of the school paper and I was on the literary magazine committee and the yearbook and all that kind of stuff. And of course, in college, I pursued an English degree. I was able to start freelancing in college. The internet was really starting to just become a big thing back then. And so I had my first paid freelance writing jobs while I was still in school and got very lucky and had an internship at a small regional publisher where I really was able to learn so much about the business just by sort of being involved in really every aspect. It was a small enough company that even as an intern, I was able to do a little bit of everything. And the big pivoting moment, of course, was when I graduated, I got a job at Simon and Schuster, one of the big 5 publishers in New York. And that's where I really cut my teeth, where I really, really learned the business, acquiring books, publishing books, working with my bosses and with my own list to just understand more about what makes a book really successful, how an author can help build their platform and get their book out there to the readers who want to read it. And after a while, for a large number of reasons, I left Simon and Schuster and went freelance. I was a freelance editor and ghostwriter and book doctor for most of the big publishers and some medium-sized publishers for a while. And I really started to see the self-publishing world grow. It was early days, digital publishing, ebooks, print on demand, and I could see very quickly how lots of people were rushing into this space to honestly take advantage of authors. A lot of people were starting businesses to take advantage of the fact that you could now produce books very easily and cheaply, and they were hanging out shingles as editors and publishers really when they didn't have any experience, and a lot of authors were being taken advantage of, and I wanted to do something about that. I wanted to be able to provide the services that authors needed to either put together a really great manuscript and proposal to submit to publishers, or if they wanted to self publish, I wanted to make sure that they had services that they could really count on and trust to help them make sure that their book was actually ready for the marketplace and make sure that it was reaching its highest potential and was just the best book it was going to be before it went out there. So I started the Writer's Ally, and here we are.
Well, thank you again for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, for helping authors, writers all over the world. Are you really ready to publish? Can you explain more about this phrase?
Yeah, absolutely. So, a lot of people, sometimes because the media, just as usual, puts forth stories that are not representative of what's going on behind the scenes, right? We hear the celebrations of the person who published a book and was an overnight success, or the person who, didn't even really care. They just sort of threw something out there and it just happened to catch on to the public attention. But the truth is that writing and publishing a book that can actually succeed in the marketplace, which is very, very crowded. Millions of books are published every year these days, thanks to those same digital technologies we were talking about earlier. It takes a lot more than simply taking a file and uploading it to Amazon and pressing the button to make it available for sale. In the most basic sense, it is very quick and easy to publish a book these days. But that doesn't mean that what you've published is actually ready for the market, that it's actually designed to attract and satisfy your target readers, that it's keyed into whatever expectations your category has in the marketplace, that it has a competitive cover that's designed to stand out, that capitalizes on trends. There are lots of different pieces that make a book successful and marketable, and that's very different from just writing a good book, or even just, as I said, finishing a file and uploading it and thinking, oh, well, now I've published something. So we really try to help authors understand that difference and that question, are you really ready to publish? It means it's more than just having a completed file and, a nice cover that, your friend did for you or your kid did for you or something like that. And yes, we've had many clients come to us in that situation. Being really ready to publish means that you understand that the strategy behind it, and you've really thought through the different pieces about what you want to do with your book, who you need to reach, and that the book is actually marketable and ready to compete in the marketplace.
Ready to compete. Indeed. So, how do you define book leverage, and how does your role as a book leverage expert fundamentally differ from a traditional literary agent or a book coach?
Oh, yeah. So, a literary agent's role is to sort of serve as a go between authors and publishers. These are folks who seek out authors' manuscripts and projects that are very close to being ready, that are certainly ready to compete at the traditional publishing level, which is like the Olympics of publishing, or the major league of publishing, to use a baseball analogy. So agents serve to connect the editors and publishers in their network with their clients, their authors, and make a deal, manage the deal, negotiate the terms, negotiate the contract, and then they get a percentage in exchange for that. That is not at all what we do. What we do is we are an author services company. So I'm a book leverage expert. What that means is that I take my 25 plus years in the industry and my knowledge of book publishing to help our clients understand how they can really leverage their book. Um, in particular, when we're talking about leverage, we're talking about nonfiction. That doesn't apply as much to people who are writing novels and memoirs. But when you're writing a nonfiction book, if you're an expert of some kind, if you're a speaker or a coach, and you write this book, you publish the book, and of course, you want to sell books. Anyone who publishes a book wants to sell books. But the real value of a nonfiction book isn't in the cover price. If you're just spending your time trying to sell one copy at a time of a nonfiction book, you're missing out on the real value, which is to leverage that book as a tool to grow your business. So, as an example, sending your nonfiction book to event hosts to try to get yourself booked as a keynote speaker, or giving your book away as a tool to build your mailing list. There's lots of different strategies where you can leverage that book to achieve bigger business goals that are going to be much more valuable to you in the long run than trying to sell one copy of a book at a time. So when we work with nonfiction clients, it's a little bit of a different picture where we're asking those questions about their business, about their expertise, and really about what they want that book to do for them out in the world beyond just selling copies of the book, which, as I said, is kind of a given. For fiction and memoirists, it's not so much about leverage, but we do ask a lot of the same types of questions as far as understanding exactly what type of book it is and who the ideal reader is going to be. You can write a story that maybe is a just a nice story and perhaps it's very well written, but that doesn't make it marketable. If it's not clear who the book is for, it's going to be really hard to get that book in front of the right people.
Again, Miss. Very well said. Very well said. Thank you
I
for
love the applause.
thank you for empowering us. What are the biggest misconceptions authors have about what a publishing consultant actually does?
So I think that some of the misconceptions are that they don't understand the different roles. I do have a lot of people who think that that means I can help them get a publisher or get an agent. We don't do matchmaking. Of course, I have a large network of people in the industry, and if it makes sense to make an introduction, I'll always do that. But it's not exactly my role. My role is to help people understand what goals they have, what they want that book to achieve, to really dig into who they are and who their existing audience is, and try to find that sweet spot where they're writing a book about something they're passionate about, but that also has a market. Otherwise, they're just kind of making a really expensive soapbox.
Mm, totally agree with you, Miss. And what specific gaps in the publishing ecosystem does your expertise feel for authors, especially those who are entrepreneurs, experts, and thought leaders?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there are a lot of companies out there who will do different pieces. You can hire editors independently, for example, different kinds of editors that just do one-off things. You can hire a book cover designer. You can hire someone to manage ads. You can do all these different pieces. What we do is we really try to bring everything together. And I think that we're very unique because many author services companies skip what we feel is a really crucial part of the process, which is the development part of the process. So, a lot of author services companies start with copy editing. Copy editing is really the last stage of editing. It's the thing that happens at the very end of your writing and revision process. It's looking at cleaning up your manuscript, right? Punctuation, grammar, style, inconsistencies, things like that. What we do is we start earlier. We work with our clients on developing the book before they publish it. So we want to make sure that what you've written is what you really intended to write. That if you say that you want this book to be something that, let's say, helps you to pivot into a new space, we want to make sure that what you're doing in the book is going to actually accomplish that goal. And sometimes what you think you've written and what you've actually written aren't really the same thing. It's very hard to be completely objective about your own work. It's just how the brain is. It's true for best-selling authors, the most famous authors you've ever heard of. They've all worked with editors to help them answer these questions and make sure that the book they're trying to write is reaching its very highest potential, that it's, really firing on all cylinders. If it's nonfiction, especially, we want to ask things about who exactly they want to be working with, what kind of clients they want to attract. We want to be clear about how the book is going to fit into the ecosystem of their business. How are they going to be able to leverage it to achieve their goals? We don't just want to put a book out there that's a good book. We want to put a book out there that's going to be useful in the long term for that entrepreneur as a tool for growth for whatever it is they want to do.
Yes, indeed, totally polished. And how do you help an author determine if their core goal is leverage, like authority, leads, or speaking gigs, primarily book sales or literary acclaim?
Yeah, so when we're talking to fiction and memoir, it's a different story, right? Fiction and memoir is usually more about entertainment and building an audience so that you can write more books, and there will be people out there who want to read more of your stories. But when it comes to nonfiction, there's almost always a business goal attached. And if there isn't, what I coach authors on is trying to help them understand that it's nice to publish a book that's legacy. You have all these ideas and experience that you want to share with the world, and that's a great motivation. But if you don't have it tied to a business goal, it can be really hard, excuse me, to have that book reach people. So I spoke with someone just yesterday as an example, and he's written this wonderful book about how to be happier and how to live a more fulfilling life. And he wrote it just sort of as a gift to the world. He felt that he had learned all of these things and he wants to share it with other people and inspire other people. And he says, well, I don't really have any big business goals. I'm not really, looking to make a ton of money. But I explained to him that simply launching a book out into the world and then not doing anything with it, that book's not going to inspire anybody. It's not going to reach any readers. If you write a really great book, it's not a field of dreams scenario. You asked earlier about common myths. A lot of people have this sort of field of dreams idea. The idea being, if I write a really good book, people will just find it, right? It will be
Yes.
fine. It'll all be fine. And it's just completely untrue. You can write the world's most excellent book, and if you don't know who it's for and you don't market it to those people, nobody's going to buy it and nobody's going to read it because they don't know that it's there.
Yes, indeed, for sure. What do you advise authors on balancing the need for a high quality, credible book with the speed to market often desired for leverage purpose?
Yeah, that is a really great question, and it is something that we struggle with. So, in general, I don't believe in rushing the process if unless you absolutely need to. So what I find is that a lot of people feel pressure and they want to get something done fast, but they don't really have to, right? There's no real deadline. There's nothing outside of their own minds that means that book has to be done in a certain timeline. So whenever possible, I do encourage people to move a little more slowly, especially in the development stage, because it takes time to really get all of your ideas out there and to figure out the best way to put everything together to create a really engaging and compelling journey for your reader from start to finish. I mean, that's really what you're selling, is you're selling the transformation. People don't buy books for information now. You can get information on Google, you can get information with Chat GPT. There's lots of places to get information very quickly. People buy books because they're looking for something deeper. They're looking to spend some time with something that helps them create a new idea or that helps them create some kind of transformation with themselves. So the writing process needs to reflect that kind of depth as well. So how do we balance it? First we ask those hard questions. Why is it that you really want to move quickly? Is there something legitimate that we need to move quickly in order to have the book ready? Maybe someone has a really huge opportunity and they need the book ready. That's a really real reason, right? Simply wanting it to be published by the end of the year because you've been meaning to do it for years, or wanting it to be out for your mother's birthday because you want to publish it in honor of your mother, those are nice things, but they're not real deadlines. And it's not a good idea to rush something for an arbitrary deadline unless you actually have to. There are ways that you can move more quickly. If it's a shorter book, so one type of book that's very common with entrepreneurs these days are, what I would call the lead magnet or the calling card type book. They tend to be much shorter, usually more around 25, 30,000 words, about 100 pages in a print book. And books like that are very subject specific and very narrow in focus. So they're a lot easier to write and they can be written and published a lot more quickly. If you just need something really fast, that can be a better way to go sometimes instead of trying to write a bigger, more in depth thought leadership type piece. And another way that you can really cut the timeline down if you have to is to go publish an ebook first and save the print book for later. A lot of the time consuming pieces of publishing a book have to do with laying out a print book. Aside from the development itself. So, if you really have to move fast, sometimes getting that ebook out really quickly can be a good way to do that first.
Miss Ali, what are your short term and long term goals as a leverage expert and as a books coach?
Oh gosh. Well, my short-term goals this year, I have a really strong theme. I am absolutely beating my drum this year on the idea that when entrepreneurs want to write a book, it's really important that they understand what the right book is for their business goals and help them avoid writing the wrong book. Spending so much time and money and energy in writing a book for it to be a book that doesn't actually help you achieve your goals is just a terrible waste. So I'm really trying to get out there on shows like yours and educate people and help them think a little bit more about what they're writing and what they want to have happen with that book before they sit down and write it, hopefully. And if they've already written it, to maybe go back and look at what they've written before they publish it. Um, I'm working on my own book this year on the same subject. So I'm
Mm.
also going to have that resource. Hopefully by early next year, we'll have 9 different strategies to help business owners understand how to leverage their book and really squeeze every last drop of juice out of it. And I'm going around and talking to different audiences on the subject. I have a really wonderful evergreen webinar called Don't Write the Wrong Book that I share with partners and their audiences, and then follow it up with an open Ask Me Anything session so we can talk about it. So those are all of my short term goals. I would say my longer term goals are to publish the book, publish some more books, and just find I'm always looking for new and better ways to connect with people and really just help better books get out into the marketplace. I'm an avid reader. I want all of us readers to have really great books.
Good luck to your goals, Miss Ali, and looking forward for more and more success. And what will be a piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
um, Well, if you're interested in working in the book publishing industry, I would strongly recommend a group called the Editorial Freelancers Association. It's mostly for editors, but you can make connections for getting involved in other parts of the process. It's a really wonderful organization. I've been a member for many years. It's incredibly supportive, and they have a wonderful catalog of courses that can help educate you in different types of editing and different parts of the publishing process. So start there and. Um, yeah, I think that's one of the best things. And if they wanna get their book out there, if they have a book or they're thinking about writing a book, they should get in touch with me. They can come to our website. It's thewritersally.com and start consuming some of our free content. We have a lot of great stuff available.
Miss Ali, thank you so much for your recommendation. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and book 101 review in fifth season as well, comedy 101 in second season, and food 101 in its fifth season too. Geography 101 in fourth season, and My Baby Podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, Science 101 and Sex 101 in each first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Miss Ali, how does your work ensure the book remains a relevant and powerful tool, even the author's business or expertise evolves?
Well, a book is a relatively static thing. So once you've published it, if things have changed, you can decide to publish a new edition of your book. If there's something that needs to be updated in the book, that's always an option. But I think one of the most important things that people need to understand is that you can write a lot of books. In fact, it's really good for you. Sort of
Yes.
like your podcasts, it's great to have a large footprint and write a lot of different books, kind of on the same subject to build yourselves a platform and a way for people to find out about you. The more books you have out there, the more ways people can connect with you and find you and discover you. So don't try to put everything you've ever learned into this one book, like it's the only book you're ever going to get to publish. You can do more than one.
Indeed. Again, Miss Ali Machete, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your business itself and your advocacy to the world?
Yes, please. If you have a book, if you are thinking about publishing it, if you have a draft that isn't quite ready and you need a little help, come check us out, thewritersally.com. Otherwise, come join the mailing list. I have monthly open Ask Me Anything sessions that you'll be invited to. And we have lots of great blog articles and other freebies that you can get.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Ali Mashari because if you support her, more and more and more empowering books to come, more and more empowering business to come. Miss Ali, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me again, Danielle. It was really nice to be here.
More to come, people. See you soon.